All right. This is Engage New York, Module 1, Lesson 2. This is concept development. All right. So we are going to begin by reviewing the concepts that we learned yesterday. We are going to go ahead and start here. So 367 times 10, and then we're going to take 367 and divide by 100. Here's 4,367 times 10, and then 4,367 divided by 10. Now, you can add more lines to this if you want, or if you don't need this, you can kind of break this up into fourths. You can break this up if you need to and you want to use this. That's up to you. Okay? So, let's start off by going 367, and now we're going to multiply by 10. So that means we're going to move it one place over. So our new number is 3,670. 3,670. Now let's take that same number, 367, and we're going to divide by 100. So now by dividing, remember we're multiplying going this direction with our arrows going this way. Now we're going to divide and go this direction. We're going to go to the right, and then our decimal goes to the left. So we're going to move it 2 times to the left because of the 2 zeros. It's 10 times 10. So you're going to move it 10, and then you move it another 10. So it becomes 100th times smaller. So I'm going to move this once, twice, once, twice, and once, twice. So my new number becomes 3.67. 3.67. And if you want to make a little chart on your own down here, you can always do that as well. Now we have 4,367 times 10. So we're going to, your number is going to get 10 times bigger. 10 times bigger. This one, it becomes 1/10 smaller. 10 times bigger, 1/10 smaller. All right, so let's start out with 4,367, and it's going to become 10 times bigger. I'm going to move it up over 110. So now my new number is 43,670. 43,670. Then we have 4,367, and we're going to divide by 10, and it's going to become 1/10 smaller. So everything's going to move in this direction now. Wait. Yeah. All right. Then we end up with 436.7. 436.7. Okay, remember, because it's 100, it's 10 times 10. So you have to move it 110, then you have to move it another 10. So remember, here's 110 and here's another 10. That's why we're moving it twice. So if you want to start off and put 215.6, and now it's going to become 100 times bigger. 100 times bigger. So it's going to move twice. Once, twice. Whoops. Sorry. I made a mistake. So now this becomes 21,560. Now, another way of doing it, all you have to do is move this decimal twice in this direction, and you're going to get the same number. Now, on dividing by 100, your number is going to move backwards because the number is going to be smaller. You're dividing it up 100 times. So you're dividing this number, 215.6, you're dividing it up 100 times. So you're dividing, it's becoming 100th, as it's 100th of its former self, if you want. Then, so if my decimal, when I'm multiplying, my decimal moves this direction. When I'm dividing, my decimal moves in this direction, right? So I can either put it in the chart, but if the directions tell me to use the chart, I use the chart. If the directions do not tell me to use the chart, shoot, you can just use this strategy. You can write this at the top of your paper, and just to remind yourself, when I'm dividing by 10, 100, or 1,000, my decimal is going to move in this direction. When I'm multiplying by 10, 100, or 1,000, my decimal is going to move in this direction. So I'm going to move my decimal. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to move my decimal twice. Once, twice. And my new number is 2.156. Let's try that up here. If I multiply, my decimal is going to move in this direction. So I'm making this 100 times. I have to move this one 10 and another 10. So I have to move this once, twice. And my new number is 370. Now down here, I'm dividing. So my decimal is going to move in this direction. It's going to become smaller by 100th, by 100 times, or 100th. I'm going to move this once, twice, once, twice. And my new number is 0.037. Recording. Now, down here, I'm multiplying. So when I multiply, remember, when I multiply, my number gets bigger. My number is getting greater. So my decimal actually gets smaller. My decimal is going to move in a smaller direction because my number is getting bigger. Then over here, when I'm dividing, my decimal is going to move this way because my number is going to get smaller. I know it sounds funny. You just have to get used to the idea that when your number gets bigger, your decimal, your numbers are moving away from the decimal. When your number is getting bigger, it's getting farther away from the decimal. It's getting bigger. So your decimal is like, running that way. All right. So if it's going to get 1,000 times bigger. So it's 10 times 10 times 10. So I'm going to move it once, twice, 3 times. So I'm going to move it once, twice, 3 times. So if I start off with 0.482, and this is going to become 1,000 times bigger. It's going to move once, twice, 3 times. The zero is not going to matter in the end. Here's once, twice, 3 times. Once, twice, 3 times. Once, twice, 3 times. Now, your new number is 482. Now, let me show you in this direction. My decimal is going to move 3 times. 1, 2, 3. That's my new number. Then if we start with 482, and it's going to become 1,000 times smaller, 1,000th of its former self, I'm going to move this back. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So my number goes right back to where where we started over here. Our number becomes 0.482. Second. Now over here, remember that decimal point really does exist over here. It really does exist. That decimal point truly does exist right there in that number. So I'm going to move it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Look at that. It took me right back to where we were. All right, so now, based on what we just did in our concept development, you're now going to solve. Now, does it show the place value chart? No. So do you have to use the place value chart? No. If you want to use the place value chart, can you? Absolutely. But remember, you have your notes from what we just did. You can write this on the top of your paper. Write this at the top of your paper to remind you what direction your decimal is going when you're multiplying or dividing by 10, 100, or 1,000. So, problem 1, you're going to solve the problem. How does this number change when you multiply by 10? How does this number change when you divide by 10? Then you're going to find the product. Remember, product means multiplication. Then it says explain. That means with words. Explain how you decided on the number of zeros in the product of A, B, and C. So an example would be the number of zeros in the answer match or something like that. You want to be able to write out in words. Now, the next part is find the quotient. Remember, quotient is division. Then you're going to explain. You have an exit ticket, and then you have homework. So, and then additional notes. So the homework is just these 2 sides. Your problem set is basically 2 sides with an exit ticket. So, good luck. Come back and you can check the debrief.